All right, the Reds talking Revs. Gareth Roberts, Neil Atkinson were on the steps of the mighty St George's Hall. The sun was shining a second ago. Then we pressed record on the camera and, you know,
it
rain,
might actually
wind. I just felt some. There you go. There it is. Up the Reds. Nice one, lad.
Can you just film outside more? We're all getting a bit bored of Zooms. Yeah, I take your general point. And now Liverpool conspired against us. You meant to film outside yesterday, weren't you? It lashed down all day.
Yeah, lashed down all day. Absolutely bucketed it down. And even though we did film inside, when we went outside, we still got soaked. So yeah, shout. What is there then in the world of the Reds to talk about? Well, our manager, Jurgen Klopp's manager of the year, which is nice, and he's been presented the Alex Ferguson trophy or whatever it's called these days. And Ferguson himself has been talking about it, and I was just saying to Neil, I seen a tweet last night that really made me laugh about this. It just said, is Ferguson ... sound? Really liked it because I've always been like sort of really interested in the fella, I've got to be honest. Absolutely hated him when he was manager of Manchester United, hated the way he badgered refs, hated the way he talked about us, hated the quote about the pitch, all of those things. But as soon as he packed up and jibbed it and went to do what he does, drink his whiskey, I became really interested in how he'd done it, and like I read a couple of books, to be honest, and stuff like that, and I still find them fascinating now. So to see him there, and as well, it's nice that he's in good health. I think we're fine saying that, aren't we? He was there in good health, in good spirits, and he said of Klopp, incredible, really thoroughly deserved. The performance level of your team was outstanding. Your personality went right through the whole club. I think it was a marvellous performance, and I'll forgive you for waking me up at 3:30 in the morning to tell me you'd won the league. Thank you, but anyway, you thoroughly deserved it. Well done. Now, obviously, the 3:30 in the morning thing, everyone's loved that. The idea of Klopp smashed, just belling him, going, lad!
I like the idea, he's going through his phone. Yeah. Who else can I ring now? Who else? I'll have him next, bang, 3:30 in the morning, that you'll do for me.
I like though, and I remember we talked about it a good while ago, like this isn't a new thing, is it, that these two respect each other and like each other? I remember Ferguson, when he seemed to be talking a little bit more still in the football world, he's backed away, probably because of his health issues and age and everything else, but when he was still sort of fairly prominent and talking, he talked about Klopp, talked that he'd met him, talked that he liked his methods, and he actually said along the lines of, I'm a bit worried that this will be the fella who'll turn Liverpool around, you know. Yep. And so it's proved. Absolutely.
I think that on the is Ferguson ... sound thing, I think he probably, broadly speaking, is he sound to everyone? Far from it. There's tons of evidence about that. Yeah. Is he, is he sound? Did he go about the job at Manchester United the way in which Jurgen Klopp's gone about the job at Liverpool? No, because I think Jurgen Klopp at Liverpool's been very much built around building consensus and going from there and bringing people with him, whereas I think Ferguson, a lot of what he's done is, I think he's seen himself as a manager and a man who throws people out at the right time, loves a siege mentality. I don't think you can say that about Jurgen Klopp. I don't think you can say that they're similar people, but I think, I do think it's really funny the trophy's named after Ferguson. There's a thing there with the Football Managers Association where you're like, and so all this finished and then he got the trophy named after him. But I think as part of that, one of the things he did do quite clearly was he built relationships across football. So for instance, one of the things I always like saying is, there's a letter he writes to Cantona, which I've read a couple of times whenever it comes on my timeline. I always sort of dwell on it in that it's very clearly written by Ferguson. It's all very first person stuff, and it really is. It's quite gentle and quite caring, and it's a bit like, because Cantona just disappeared. Eric, there's always a place for you here. And what it seems to me is though, if Ferguson decided that he liked you, then he was ... sound. If he decided he was going to basically turn the whole club into a fortress against you, then he obviously was not ... sound. But I think that's part of the way in which he chose to go about it, and you can't argue with his record. But also in general, I think there's different ways of doing leadership, and we were lucky enough to, when we talked to Henderson last week, one of the things he talked about was different ways of doing leadership, and I do think that some of that now is maybe would be a little bit outdated. I think it's interesting. Ferguson took more and more steps back. There was more of a general manager feel than a day-to-day coach feel. And so, but again, I think one of the most underrated things about Ferguson is I think he was hugely pragmatic. I think he like Carlos Queiroz, he brings him back after he walks out. Yeah. And I think he worked out where he needed other people to come in and help him. And I think the big thing is we've suddenly got this. I loved what Klopp said, because Klopp talked about straight away to the coaches.
Yeah.
And I think this idea that if you're smart and you're good at this, it isn't about me. It's not about the big I am. It's about how all these people fill all these gaps.
Culture.
And I think culture. And I think that's what Ferguson and Klopp massively have in common, filling those gaps.
Absolutely. And Ferguson, of course, really good with dealing with the media. And people might laugh at me over that, but what I mean by that is he made sure he had the right relationships, got to know the right people, and then those people, even just by doing the job, almost felt like they were being disloyal to Ferguson, and that in itself is a skill and a very good one. Klopp said of it, he said, "I'm absolutely delighted to get the trophy. I already saw some of the names who'd won it before, obviously some big Liverpool names, Shankly, Paisley, Fagan, Kenny looks like he's all over the trophy, Brendan, well deserved, and Ferguson, I know it's not 100% appropriate as Liverpool manager, but I admire him so much. He's the first British manager I met. We had breakfast together. It was so long ago, I don't know if he remembers, but for me, it was like meeting the Pope. It was absolutely great. From the first second, we really clicked. I wouldn't have thought in that moment I'd hold the trophy in my hands with his name. I'm here, as Neil says, on behalf of my coaches. I say that a lot of times, but I'm okay as a manager. But they make us a really special bunch of football brains, and I love to work together with them. I think he very much means that as well, doesn't he? I mean, it's not a soundbite. You see in the way they work together, the way they talk, and even the little sort of vignette of the situation with Lampard the other day, and you know, the spat, if you want to call it that, with Linders. You know, Klopp goes to town on defending his own there, if you like, which I really loved. You know, I love the idea of where he told him off. You know, he's like, you know, after 90 minutes, you let it go. You don't carry on in press conferences. You don't do that. And it was like, all right, get told, Frank.
I loved all that. I think that in there, you know, we can't underestimate that team. And he goes on to name a few of them, but there's a number of people beneath that. There's people who work at the under-18s, under-16s level. There's Alex Inglethorpe as well. And I think, you know, in general, they're a special group, but it is about the culture. But what I would say in there is that, you know, the culture will be driven by Klopp, led by Klopp, but it won't be all Klopp.
No.
Other people add to that, and again, that's something he's very, very good at. I think is you know, bringing the best out of the people that he works with, and allowing their best to add to the collective best. You know, one of the best facets of these people's personality, and let's heighten them. Let's not try to make people what they aren't. Let's make them better versions of what they are. And from the outside, that's what I think he does brilliantly, and that's what he does brilliantly with his players. But I suspect it's what's done brilliantly with the coaching staff. And I wrote a piece right back in February, and I stand by it, that there's loads of games to be proud of this season. Obviously, they won the league for the first time in 30 years. But I'll struggle to think of a night I was more proud of a Liverpool team than the one that played at home against Shrewsbury. The one that Jurgen Klopp wasn't even present for. James Milner was, and that speaks volumes about him. But the one that he wasn't even present for, and the way all of that broke down, and the way we responded, the way, you know, none of us got a face on, none of us stuck our bottom lip out and said this isn't acceptable. What happened was that entire crowd turned up and absolutely urged that young team forward. And I think if anything speaks volumes about the job Jurgen Klopp's done, it's that night when he wasn't there, when his team wasn't there, but when they showed what it is to play for Jurgen Klopp's Liverpool.
Absolutely, and he's got a string of cultural leaders there within the playing organisation, if you like, and one of those is very much James Milner, one of the most dedicated, hardest working professionals at Liverpool. And James very kindly gave the Anfield app some time. We've got a 20-odd minute interview with him, an exclusive. So if you want to subscribe to the Anfield app and watch all of that, you can do that. You can download the app on any platform. It's free. You get some tokens and you can watch some of our premium content, which, if you want, can be this Milner interview. To give you the taster of that interview, here's a clip from it.
I want to talk about Jordan Henderson because he's today been announced, we're recording this on Friday, today been announced as Football Writers Player of the Year. You must be so proud of him. Obviously, he's your mate, he's your captain. You must be so proud of how far he's come and what he's turned into and how he's led this team.
Yeah, it's hard to put into words. You know, you get a bit emotional, and it's unbelievable, really. He deserves everything, and you know, it's probably taken so long for him to get the plaudits he's now getting, because that's what he's like. He will sacrifice himself for the team. Doesn't matter what it is. If it worsens his situation, not even a thought of that. He'll do it for the team. And there's times, you know, how we play. I mean, look at the two guys getting all the assists, the full-backs and stuff. There's a reason they can do that. They're incredible players, but you know, they've got Hendo behind them winning it back. If there's a gap there, they're not going down the other end and scoring. Hendo's winning it back and feeding him again. You know, people probably haven't noticed his range of passing as much and things like that, but he's one of those players, and you know, I've played with him before, and you see him that people who aren't fans of the team, who don't watch them every week, don't really sometimes understand what the player's about, or even as players really, until you play alongside someone and train alongside them and see how they go about the business, see how they lead the dressing room and the team. And as a fan watching him week in, week out and seeing that level of performance, sometimes as an opposition fan, it is hard to see that and appreciate. So it's amazing to see he's getting the credit he deserves now, and you can see the difference when he's not on the field. You can see it, and what a great leader he is, and we have other leaders in the team, but how he sets the tempo, he does it through ability and how he plays the game, but also by screaming in people's ear, and that's important. And he's probably toned it down slightly since there's been no crowd there, I think, because I haven't heard it too much, but he's still shouting and stuff. But yeah, he's fantastic in that, and he's good fun to listen to at times as well.
If I could put you on the spot a little bit, James, I was wondering if there's any sort of stories you can think of that really sum up Jordan Henderson as a player or as a leader. Anything from your sort of time with him that sums up sort of what kind of a special captain he is.
I think it's obviously hard, like you say, I've put me on the spot. I'd say it's just the sacrificing himself. I think obviously he didn't want to play number 6. He did it for such a long time and was amazing there. And then first game, the gaffer released him. He went and did he get a goal or a couple of assists? Yeah. It was incredible. And it's like, gaffer was like, what have I been doing playing you there for so long? But we needed him there and he did the job. I think when we won the Champions League and he asked me about lifting it with him, and I think he might have asked the gaffer as well. And it was like, Hendo, this is your moment. You've earned this. Go and join the other legends who have lifted this trophy for this club. And he wanted to share it with me or whoever, because that's what he's like. It's like, this is your moment. And, I think he's grown in the last year again. Maybe not the confidence in himself, because he's always had that belief, but I think recognising where he is and how he's appreciated, where maybe before he always had that inner confidence, but maybe didn't show it on the outside. Whereas now, what he's won, what he's lifted, and how he's done it, and how big a part of it, he's grown even more, which is fantastic. And not even, just on the field and what he does as a player, in the lockdown and the things he did and getting the Premier League captains together and sorting out the big donations and things like that. I don't think his missus was too impressed the amount of time he was on the phone after having a baby. But again, sacrificing himself for that, and his missus has probably got to take a bit of the credit there as well.
It must have wound you up though when he was moaning about playing 6 and you were like, listen, I did the season at left back.
There you go, Jimmy Milner, what a guy. One day he will have to go. He will go somewhere else, but it'll be a sad day. He's been great for Liverpool in terms of on the pitch, in terms of off the pitch. And we've all been fortunate enough to meet him a few times now, and he's a great fella. His book's good as well, and I'm not just saying that. So, in terms of culture then at Liverpool, we're culture heavy today. Someone else who was a big part of the culture at Liverpool was Adam Lallana. He has now left Liverpool, he's now joined Brighton. He will play for Brighton next season. You've seen him posing with the kit. Looks a bit weird, him in blue and that, but he is a blue. But yeah, Pep Lijnders has been talking about him very fondly in The Athletic. He says, how can you thank someone who doesn't know how important he was for you? How can you explain to someone how crucial he was for the journey? Talks about the standards that he set. Talks about how he basically raised the standards in training over and over again. And I think we talk about Milner, don't we, in some of those tests you see pre-season and things like that. Second place was always Adam Lallana, but we don't talk about that as much. But for everything that you saw Milner pour into Liverpool over these past few years, Lallana's done the same. And okay, he's not ended up on the pitch as much as he would have wanted. It sort of fizzled out his career really at Liverpool, although he did have the lovely moments at Old Trafford. It's been very frustrating for him, as he talked about in that interview with LFC TV, where he's very honest, tearful and everything else. And this stuff from Pep Lijnders was really nice. He says these boys have so much desire. Adam put oil on that fire every day. He gave everyone around him energy, and that's a characteristic that's not easy to find but is important to have in a successful dressing room. He says, I'm going to miss him. I'm going to miss him also because he did 50% of the coaching. He says, and then Klopp said, Adam is someone who's always put the club first. He's one of the most influential players on the training quality I've ever had in my life. And Lijnders also talks about how he'll be great for Brighton not just in terms of what he's able to do on the pitch in a number of positions, but in lifting what it's going to be like in training, because everyone's going to be looking at Lallana and going, oh shit, he's still going, I best carry on then.
I think it's, if people want a list of things to be concerned about at the moment, I actually think this is one to be ever so slightly mildly concerned about. In that, I think that, you know, from the way in which they're talking about him, listen, there's a lot of leaders in the dressing room, and you have got to have that churn at a football club. But it may well be strange for a few of them, for the, you know, when they come back, certainly for a few weeks, that they haven't got Lallana being one, Lovren also being another. It seems as though
Henderson and Salah's best mate.
Yeah, they seem as though they were all quite fond of, you know, no matter what we thought of him on the pitch. And by the way, doing the season review stuff, you forget he plays some big roles in some games in autumn. You know, so we're going to miss that as well in terms of what he's going to pull together. But with Lallana, I think that, you know, that is the very highest praise you could want. Yeah. You know, these are the people who've just coached you to winning the Football League. You know, Liverpool's first title in God knows how long, 99 points, and that's the way they're speaking about you. And I think that is, you know, that is the highest possible praise, really, without it being solely about, yeah, he kicked the ball in the goal 40 times for us. You know, it is that sort of what it was like to have him around, what it was like to work with him, and to speak like that about anybody is terrific. And I think, therefore, we can conclude that he may well be missed a little bit now. There'll be the opportunity there for someone else to fill those shoes. You know, there'll be the opportunity for people change. You know, Adam Lallana, as he is there, isn't the Adam Lallana he was when he was 19, I'm sure. You know, people become different people, and sometimes that vacuum gets filled. Somebody else will come in and offer that. So, you know, it isn't as though, oh, well, that's it then, you know, they won't all be bouncing into training anymore. That's not what I'm saying, but it is a significant thing. But also, I think within a lot of these players, when I was just walking here, I was sort of reflecting on a lot of these footballers have done 4, 5, 6, 7 years now at Liverpool. And that is the bulk of their professional career. It's certainly of the key years as well. Yeah. Lallana's done is basically his prime years as a Liverpool player. That's who he's been, and that's not what will define him. Go back and remember, Lucas did 10 years with us, age 20 to 30. Firmino's coming on now for 6, 7 seasons. I think that the Firmino may well end up doing 8 or 9 seasons. He's a Liverpool player, a Liverpool legend. You mentioned Milner in the interview. He's now a Liverpool player. That's the first thing he is in his career. Not Leeds, not Manchester City.
We've got a Liverpool way again, haven't we?
Yeah, and that these lads have all now been around for so long that they are, you know, there's a number of them. Obviously Henderson's been there the longest, but there's now a number of them who are sort of embedded in the club. Yeah. And in a way that, you know, when you think about, you know, it's a mad thing to think about, but at some point we're all going to get back in big rooms together and we're all going to talk about Liverpool, and there's going to be, in 10, 15, 20 years time, there's going to be another set of Liverpool legends. They're going to be telling the stories, but they're going to be these ones, our ones. That's who it's going to be, because they were Liverpool players for the key moments, and I think that's what all that says about Lallana. That's who he is, that's what he was about, and that's why they'll miss him. And that's why, you know, Brighton, I think, have done a really, really smart bit of business. And also, frankly, I think if he gets 30 games, I think he'll be talked about. Maybe people will say things like, can he get back in the England squad and all that sort of stuff, because he is that good.
Smart as well to sort of hint at that he could end up with a coaching role there as well, given what Linda's has said about him.
Loves the South Coast.
Yeah, he loves it. He loves it. He's back down there near his family as well, so it works for him, which is nice. Coming up on the Anfield app, we've got loads of stuff all the way through here, just because the football stopped for a little bit. We're certainly not going to. And one of the things we're going to endlessly be talking about is, will Liverpool sign anyone? Will Liverpool sell anyone else? Will anyone else go? All that kind of stuff. The transfer roulette, if you like. We're going to be playing a series of transfer games over the coming days, and they'll be out soon. But just as a bit of a precursor to all that, really, Klopp's been talking about the idea of bringing people in, and his latest quotes on it are, it will be tricky, we will have to deal with the circumstances, the situation, as we've said several times, it's difficult to judge. We qualified early for the Champions League, usually that's good, but a few weeks ago no one knew if the Champions League could be played next season. Yep. So can you count on the money from the Champions League? How much will it be? That's all uncertain, and that's what we've got to consider, because we're not only responsible for the success of the club, we're responsible for all the people at the club, and that means everyone who works here. As long as we don't know exactly about things, we have to wait. Time will hopefully bring a bit more clarity, and then we can make decisions. We will have solutions. We've got young players. The size of the squad is not that important to me. The quality of the squad is very much so. I think we will have a really good squad for next season. He sort of straight battered that there, but what's your gut feeling on what Liverpool might do?
The variables, let's talk about them. When are we going to be allowed back into the stadium? When are the corporate facilities going to be opened? We don't like talking about that, but let's be honest, that's a massive thing, because at the minute Liverpool will have been having to pay money back. And now going forward into next season, there'll be projections that are now all over the place, so that matters massively. What's going to happen with the TV? How many TV games are there going to be next year? What money's going to have to be paid back to what broadcasters and when? All these things still remain variables within there, but there's another really, really big one, I think, and it's the one that it's one of the reasons to play the transfer game. And when we play the transfer game, I'm bringing dice in for the first time.
I've seen this, yeah.
And the reason why is because I think the biggest variable is what money are we going to get in for who? And I think that's what they don't know, because they don't know how other clubs are going to behave. And there's a lot of people at the moment saying stuff, because we can see United are linked with all sorts, Chelsea are linked, everyone's presuming City are going to spend. Everyone's going, well, everyone's spending money. They're not really Liverpool's concern. We've seen in the past Liverpool buy players almost separate to those clubs. Like, for instance, when no one else in the world was interested in Naby Keita, but he was going to come to Liverpool, even though he was so hotly rated at the time. I think that the problem that Liverpool have got is, who are they selling Shaqiri to? Who are they selling Origi to? Who's beneath that top 6 clubs can they sell to? And one of the reasons why I genuinely think Liverpool will buy Thiago is Bayern Munich will be pleased he can sell to Liverpool for a certain amount. Liverpool and Bayern Munich can trust one another. They can trust where they are in the football fabric. Bayern Munich aren't going anywhere, Liverpool aren't going anywhere. The problem you've got is, there's been jokes about it. We've wanted to sell to Bournemouth in the past. Bournemouth are now relegated on top of everything else they've got to deal with. What's our relationship like with, well, we've done Brighton with Lallana, but, can we sell 2 or 3 players to Brighton? Would they want our players? And I think when you want to go through all this, that's a normal variable, but it's bigger than ever. And then you want to look at all the other variables that are still in there as well. And I just think Liverpool will sit tight for 2 or 3 weeks, have a little look. I think that Thiago may well happen when Bayern Munich come out of the Champions League, because there isn't actually that much to negotiate in a really weird way on that one. But everything else, I think Liverpool are just going to want to sort of see where they are come the first, second week of September. And that's not a load of laughs, but we literally don't even know right now when the fixtures are coming out.
Oh, I know. Loads up in the air, which Klopp has mentioned there. But whatever happens, we'll be talking about it. We'll be making videos, we'll be doing podcasts, we'll be writing on the site, theanfieldapp.com as well. So please do carry on supporting us, carry on reading, carry on watching, carry on listening, and carry on supporting the champions of England. Up the fucking Reds.
Thank you, Liverpool.